Force Awakens is a welcome return to the roots of the original franchise. This movie is much more concerned with the themes and tropes of science fantasy as opposed to science fiction. Let's take a moment to define and differentiate between the two. Science fiction stories tend to be at least somewhat rooted in plausibility. Taken to its extreme, hard sci-fi stories like The Martian or 2001: A Space Odyssey try not to break the laws of physics at all. Instead, they posit a future that seems either likely or inevitable based on the technology of today. Science fiction themes usually involve the implications resulting from technology. Good sci-fi explores the ramifications if our advances and obsessions of the present day were amplified by time, how the things we build and use shape humanity's destiny. Science fantasy blends superficial elements of science fiction like travel between planets and futuristic technology with the classic components of fantasy: wizards, warriors, magic, and evil empires. Fantasy focuses much more on the core of humanity. Our most raw emotions, greed, lust, hate, and fear are explored and exploited to entertain us. Lifelike human characters, people that we can relate to, are put into fantastic situations, impossible universes that never could be nor ever were. The cast of A New Hope looks exactly like they stepped out of late 70s America because they did. Moviegoers were able to directly relate to the characters despite the unbelievable setting. While these heightened situations are thrilling to the characters, the stories rarely stop to take the time to explore the economics of the kingdom or the anatomy of the evil monsters. Things just are the way they are, and we're happy with it. The original Star Wars trilogy is firmly rooted in science fantasy. Space travel works just to move characters from A to B on a grand scale. Luke's X-Wing can traverse the galaxy just as easily as any Star Destroyer. Every planet has identical gravity, his lightsaber never needs to be recharged, the never-mentioned gravity simulators that every spaceship apparently has work perfectly. You get the idea. Much of the science of science fantasy is either glossed over or completely unexplained. When you get right down to it, A New Hope is the story of a farm boy who meets an old wizard, is granted a special sword, learns magic, and goes on to challenge an evil warlock and his dark apprentice and saves a princess. It's sword and sorcery through and through. It tells us its intentions right from the beginning, opening with this, which is the science fantasy version of this. In the original trilogy, the Force is never explained or quantified in any meaningful way. The most thorough description we get of it is the following.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it. Makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
The Force just was. It was magic. It was unknowable, beyond our science and our understanding. You couldn't perform experiments on it or write a textbook on it. You either had the ability to tap into it or not. And even that was left fuzzy and up to our imaginations. Unfortunately, with the prequels, Lucas undermined some of the best bits of fuzziness of the Force. He introduced the concept of midichlorians and explained that the Jedi are able to place a number on an individual's Force ability with something as boring as a blood test. This isn't science fantasy, it's not adventurous or mystical, it's just boring. It put the Force onto the same category as your cholesterol levels. I don't want to imagine Yoda's yearly physical involving a stool sample to test for microscopic, magic-giving, intelligent mitochondria. Imagine if in the Two Towers, Gandalf returned, declaring that when he slayed the Balrog, he gained 680 experience points and had successfully reached a level 40 Grand Wizard status, resulting in a 60% increase in ranged spells and melee combat. Everything about that is just lame. Similar to this is having the Jedi Academy be represented as a literal school with children, like Hogwarts or something. The Jedi were an ancient religion, shrouded in mystery, like galactic medieval knights, and Lucas boiled them down to space wizard boarding school. At least the wizards in Harry Potter had the decency just to send an invitation to your house when you turned 11. The Jedi kidnap you as a toddler to indoctrinate you into their emotionless, celibate, warrior space monk cult. Star Wars didn't need the prequels. They did nothing but make the unexplained aspects of the lore boring. They were bad, uninspired movies that already looked dated and actively worked against the themes and ideas of their universe. Thankfully, The Force Awakens has ushered in a welcome return to science fantasy for the series. Lightsaber battles are once again about the emotions of those involved, not a ballet of athleticism. The Force is powerful and frightening, The dark side intimidates us. The light gives us hope. Its effect on the universe is not merely reduced to telekinesis and improved reflexes. Star Wars was always a story about humanity. It's about people, not politics. Somewhere along the line, Lucas forgot that. He made an entire trilogy about trade negotiations. He wrote his fantasy like it was sci-fi, and he ended up with the worst of both genres. Emotionless, flat characters set in an uninteresting setting. Die-hard fans will always tend towards wanting over-explanation. They want to crunch the theoretical numbers. How many employees work at the Death Star? How many joules of energy is shot from Han's trusty blaster? While fascinating for this subsection of fans, I think looking too deeply into the details can also rob it of its ability to take us somewhere fantastic. The Force Awakens is the space fantasy film I was waiting for. The plot isn't perfect, it's fuzzy in the details, and might not hold up to the inevitable scrutiny some will put it through. It involves a lot of convenience, but you know what, I don't care. You know what's not convenient? Life. Of course things aren't going to make perfect sense with airtight logic. This isn't a logic-oriented story. The ramifications of hyperspace on the global economy isn't explored. Droids displaying uncanny emotion and consciousness is just the way things are. It gets the important things right. I love the new characters. They felt like real human beings, caught up in an epic story bigger than any one of them individually. I can't wait to see where this series goes next. Welcome back, Star Wars. You've been missed. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more. Click here to watch some of our other videos. A look into why Mad Max Fury Road excels with a simple plot, or our essay on A Clockwork Orange where the cultural impact of Kubrick's classic on modern culture is explored. In the comments, why don't you tell us if you think Star Wars is science fiction or science fantasy, and share your thoughts on The Force Awakens.